For someone who doesn't speak pain, you sound very fluent.
You are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast.
What is going down? What is going down? It is your boy, Studio MacGyver, and you are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. What's up, guys? Thank you for joining me. Let me first apologize for last week's podcast not being around. If you follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on Twitter, then you would know that there wasn't going to be an episode last week. Number of different reasons why. But every once in a while that happens where something I have going on, is going on and I have to make certain moves and therefore there'll be a podcast missing or whatever. So it doesn't happen often, but when it does, I give you guys a heads up and try to let you guys know ahead of time. But the next couple weeks is going to be crazy. Next week's podcast is going to be a doozy because, Gamescom is officially going to be here. Technically, it's going to be on the 19th, which is going to be when you hear this podcast. There's a lot of indie stuff going on, a lot of indie developers, putting out their pieces. And I'm kind of interested to see what's out there because, a lot of great games come out of the indie scene. So we're going to be talking about that, but definitely going to be covering everything from the 20th through the 24th. And that's going to be all the upcoming games. We're probably going to get a lot of different release dates for a lot of different titles. Can't wait to dive into that. It's going to be very, very robust. So definitely join me next week for that podcast, guys. I'm going to jump right into that shit. But today's podcast is a special one to me. And a lot of people have been asking about this. And, the name of the podcast is Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. And the reason why I came up with that name is because, I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. I mean, if the name doesn't tell you, then I don't know what else would. If to add insult to injury, if you want, you can check on my Instagram and you can find out, all the Dragon Ball tattoos that I have. I'm not going to even say what they are or where they're at. But if you dig deep enough in my Instagram, you will definitely find the majority of those tattoos. But I am a super Dragon Ball fan. For you guys who don't know, for the new listeners who are joining me, by the way, welcome if you're new to this podcast. Thank you for listening. But yes, I am a huge Dragon Ball fan, and I've been for years and years and years. It's what got me into anime and manga and basically, it was the gateway drug, if you will, into the world of anime. And it's what got me started, man. So I have to pay homage to that series. And I've done that, by doing a number of different things. I mean, I pretty much buy everything Dragon Ball, any kind of game that comes out, I buy it. I support the series. I own all the episodes of Dragon Ball Z, not GT because, it's not canon in my opinion. And technically it isn't considered canon. I mean, some people might argue that, but I never really got into GT anyway. I'm not going to insult all the GT guys out there who actually do like the series, but, it's just not for me. Never was for me. But anyway, as far as Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, and all of that, I mean, I'm a big fan of all of those things. Can't wait for Dragon Ball Super to come back and, and what's going to happen beyond. What are we looking forward to in the future? We've got a big Dragon Ball game coming in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I think that game's going to be awesome. It's a different take on the world of Dragon Ball and how they develop game-wise. I'm interested to see how this plays out, and I'm looking forward to that game. But this podcast is going to be, my top 10 Dragon Ball characters. And I'm talking about from Dragon Ball all the way through Super. So anything in the world of Dragon Ball. We're not going to break it up from Dragon Ball Z, and Super. A lot of people don't know this about Dragon Ball. Most people in America, we go by Dragon Ball, which is the early stages when Goku was a child. And then we go to Dragon Ball Z when he's finally grown, has his own family. And then Super is, the next, chapter, if you will. And, with the other time skip or whatnot. But In Japan, it's basically just Dragon Ball. It's just one word. They just call it Dragon Ball. So everything under Dragon Ball technically is just what that is. I like it like that. I'm not sure if they, continue with that with Super, but all the way up into Dragon Ball Z for sure, it was just, don the name Dragon Ball. So, some of you guys may not have known that, but yeah, I when I say Dragon Ball, I'm thinking of the whole thing from the beginning all the way until Super up until present day. But yeah, I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorites. I mean, I know we all have our own favorite characters, and with so many characters in this world, I mean, it's kind of hard to fucking pick just like one. I mean, isn't it? Like, who out there just has one character in the world of Dragon Ball that they can call their own favorite? You know what I mean? That's a hard one, man, for me. I do have one, like, it kind of hurt me to put this list together, man, because especially the top 5, because, those could almost definitely go in any kind of, any position, with the exception of maybe one character. You have to understand also, like, when I started watching Dragon Ball, the first episode I've ever saw was a Dragon Ball Z episode. And certain characters that I, fell in love with at the beginning of me watching the show, before I really even knew anything about the characters or what was actually going on. That's just me running off of, like, who I thought looked cool and whose abilities I thought were pretty cool or whatever. So, and then as the series, came and moved on, and I started discovering more episodes, then I started to get the full palette of the characters and who was available. And it still wasn't even done then, because in the States, when it started showing on TV, Dragon Ball, which is the early years of Goku when he was a child or whatever, those didn't come out until after Dragon Ball Z. So then after watching Dragon Ball Z and going backwards to Dragon Ball, I found an affinity for other characters that were in Dragon Ball Z who I had already admired, but then I had appreciated even that much more from what I saw and what I didn't know about them from the past. So it was just crazy. And I'm going to just break the list down. I'm going to give you the list from 1 to 10. And I also have some honorable mentions here as well. Some characters that, you just can't put them all in 10s, but I had to mention these guys because they're special to me as well. And there's even more characters that I could have put in like honorable mentions, but you got to kind of chisel the list down to an agreeable size, you know what I mean, and keep it there. There's so many characters, number one. You guys know this in the world of Dragon Ball, and there's so many cool characters. They are. I mean, I can't lie. There's just a lot of dope characters. And I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna go from 1 to 10, and then I'll give you kind of like my reasons for, why I chose this guy or that guy in that order, or why, I consider them my top 10. Number 1 is Vegeta. Number 2 is Tien Shinhan. Number 3 is Frieza. Number 4 is Piccolo. Number 5 is Mercenary Tao, aka Tao Pai Pai. Number 6 is Android 16. Number 7 is Jiren the Gray. Number 8 is Dobora, the Demon King. Number 9 is Master Roshi. And number 10 is Tapion. Yeah, that list is crazy, right? Nobody, I mean, if I asked any random Dragon Ball fan, throw me their top 10, you're going to get a bunch of crazy different answers, man. You're going to get characters that you may never have thought, like maybe even characters you forgot about, because there's so many characters that even the creator himself, Akira Toriyama, has admitted many a time that he's forgotten names of characters. He's forgotten all about a character. You know what I mean? And he created these guys. So if you're somebody who, is just a fan of the series, I mean, you're going to forget some of these characters. But every character is, important to somebody in some strange way, shape, form, or fashion. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to why people like who they like. And that's the beauty of it, in my opinion, if you ask me. I mean, I like the fact that there's so many different favorites, among fans. You know what I mean? It's crazy to, it was crazy to me at one point that there were like huge Yamcha fans, but there are a lot of big Yamcha fans out here in these Dragon Ball streets. And that's cool to me, though. You know what I mean? That's somebody that, I never would have, pinned as a favorite of mine. But hey, if that is a character that makes you feel good or that you like, then more power to you. And that goes for, any anime, any show, any whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? But we're talking about Dragon Ball here. So let's get into Dragon Ball, shall we? Now, Vegeta, I shouldn't have to say, anything about Vegeta, but let me just start off by saying I love serious characters. I love characters who are serious, and are just straight to the point, period. And, Vegeta is just that guy who, number one, he looks cool as fuck. Let me just put that on the line. His hairstyle, all of that shit is crazy. I loved it about him when I first saw him. And then I found the fact that he was the smaller one when him and Nappa came down to Earth or whatnot. I thought, when I saw him that he was the stronger one. He was the one telling, Nappa what to do. I already knew, okay, this dude is working with something. And it's just kind of ironic how the smaller guy, in stature and size, ends up being way more powerful. It's crazy like that, but I dug that. I just thought he was just a badass. I just thought that Vegeta was always that guy who, even, throughout the series or whatever, I always still have hope in the back of my mind that he will one day surpass Goku. I mean, I just do. And I just love this guy. I just love his character. I always thought he was awesome. And then, to see him grow as a character is what really cements him in that number one spot for me. Because he's always going to be a dickhead. He's always going to be an asshole. That's just who he is. But to watch him kind of slowly change and transform, after having a family and being around the Earthlings so long and being around Goku for so long, I mean, it's going to change you. It's going to change anybody. When you're used to one thing and then you get put into another situation for an extended period of time, that's just what it does. And I felt that they did a good job with his character on that, and they still are as we move forward into Dragon Ball Super and beyond. And that there's so many other things. His Gala gun, a lot of his moves, a lot of his things that he does. The fact that his favorite form, of mine is Super Vegeta form, which is also in Dragon Ball Fighters. It was just a luck of a draw for me as a fan that they chose to put that version of him in the game. It's just crazy. But yeah, man, I mean, I love Vegeta to death. He is definitely one of my favorites, and he is number one in my book. If I had to pick a character and I had to give them a number, if somebody came in here and put a gun in my head and said, you have to pick one person as a number one or else it's over, then that's the character that I would pick. Vegeta, the prince of all fucking Saiyans. Number two, Ten Shinhan. A lot of you guys who listen to me, my affinity for this character. Newcomers or people who haven't heard before. I mean, there's a lot of history that go behind the reason why I chose Ten Shinhan as my number two character. And, he could easily be number one to me. But he just Vegeta barely snuffed him out. When you look at his, I guess, all the episodes he's ever been in or, everything he's done in the series, it doesn't compare to somebody like Vegeta's character. If you look at it and if you look at it as an average fan, but you'd have to go back to Dragon Ball to really get an understanding of who Tien is and who he was and the potential, he actually had, moving forward, which, Toriyama chose not to capitalize on. And for whatever reason, he chose not to do that. And I said it earlier in this podcast that he forgets a lot of his own characters. And if he forgets some of his own characters, then it's only probably natural for him to forget a lot of his character's abilities, and moves. And that is the discrepancy in his character, in Tien's character. I feel like he's like a cursed character in the world of Dragon Ball, in a sense, in a way, because I feel that he should be, stronger than what he is now. There's been a lot of things that he can do and that he's shown he can do in the past. And I'm talking about Dragon Ball specifically, that if he chose to continue writing, with those abilities moving forward, then it would be very, very hard for him not to be stronger. It would be very, very hard for that because, if you have an ability Tien has an ability to basically, duplicate, anything he sees. It's kind of like the Sharingan. Okay, from Naruto, like Kakashi has, or whatever, if you're familiar with that anime or manga. But basically, that third eye is like another ability of its own. You know what I mean? It's an extension of his self in every sense of the word. You know, he used it once in Dragon Ball, and it was never seen again. He used it to duplicate the Kamehameha wave, which, you know, stunned the fuck out of, you know, Roshi at the time, because, you know, that's when Roshi started to realize that, you know, it's almost time for him to hang it up. You know what I mean? That the new generation has arrived, and it's pretty much a wrap. He actually fought Roshi in Dragon Ball. A lot of you guys don't know, that may not know that, because there's a lot of fans, I truly believe, that have watched, you know, Dragon Ball Super, who hasn't even finished Dragon Ball, all of Dragon Ball Z, or who started on Dragon Ball Z and went forward and never went back to Dragon Ball. Because it happened to me. I mean, it could easily have happened to anybody else. And you just, for whatever reason, I don't know, it just seemed like Dragon Ball was harder to find, or they weren't like pushing Dragon Ball as hard or whatever. But I feel like that series is so good as far as, you know, the history, where everything begun, even the fights and everything that they had in that series, man, was so grounded. You know, because everything doesn't need to be like over the top and chaotic all the time. You know, when characters and everybody didn't know how to fly or whatever, it was just a different time. And I really appreciate, you know, the Dragon Ball stuff a lot. And it gives you, and I think Toriyama in his own way was trying to just, you know, show everybody give everybody a real gauge to, you know, how far, you know, these characters have gone, and also how strong a lot of these enemies, you know, out here have become. Just as soon as we realize that, oh, this guy's this or this guy's that, he throws somebody else at us to make us say, well, damn, look how big the world actually really is. I kind of look at it like that. But when talking about Tien, he's just, number one, I thought he was just an awesome character, you know, a monk style character. His fighting style is very unique, and not like anybody else's. He came from a different background. He was actually training to become an assassin. So he's another serious character. Like I said, I love serious characters, and he was another one of those. And in Dragon Ball, he had his own arc. So he had his own saga. You know, you have the Frieza saga, you have the Cell saga. Well, Tien Shinhan had his own arc. It was called the Tien Shinhan arc. Okay. He actually won, for you guys who don't know, he's actually he won the martial arts tournament, the 22nd martial arts tournament. He beat Goku barely, but he beat him and won the championship. So, I mean, I think that, you know, who else can say that out of the Z team? You know, can actually say, I gotta win. I got the belt. He's just an awesome character, man. I feel that, you know, his abilities are all cool. The tri-beam shit, all of that shit is awesome. And I feel that, you know, by now, if I was writing for Tien, I would definitely, you know, have him master that, or get close, or at least keep a fucking bag of sensu beans in your pocket. You know what I mean? For when you use that, like when he used it on fucking Nappa, if he just pulled out a sensu bean after that, boom, back in business. You know what I mean? And he almost killed Nappa with that. He's one of those characters that the art that he's training and he's studying, pretty much OP as fuck. I mean, it's so OP that his body can't handle what, you know, is actually dishing out. So he can actually go beyond what his body is capable of doing, but it will basically kill him in the process. And, you know, as you saw, you know, in that fight, I mean, he gave his life for Chaozu and for the rest of the squad at that time. But, you know, another thing about Tien that I love is his many different styles. And I mean, like, his clothes. He's got so many different outfits, man, and all of them are pretty much on fleek. All of them are pretty much on fire. I can't really name one bad outfit I think I have ever seen him wear, something that I didn't like. Everything he has, man, from even like a simple white t-shirt tucked in, you know, I thought it was simple, but yet it worked for him. And then even in Dragon Ball, in the Majin Buu saga, I mean, the shit he wore there, you know, with the cape and everything. I mean, everything he wears, in my opinion, is dope. And now, especially the shit that he's wearing now, Super. I mean, fuck, that shit is awesome as hell. I just love him, man. I really do. I always will. And nobody will ever be able to, you know, nobody can ever tell me anything bad about Tien. And he'll fight you. He's not scared. He'll go up against whoever. If there's a threat, he'll do what he has to do. You know, I could talk for hours and hours about Tien and the discrepancies in his character, when when I'm talking about Toriyama, but, I'll leave that for another show. But he's my number 2, strong number 2, could have been number 1, but he barely got nudged out by Vegeta. But that is my number 2, and that is why he's my number 2. There's so many more reasons why he is, man, but I'm just not going to dwell on him like that. I'm going to move on to the next character. That next character, guys, is going to be Frieza. Yes, I love me some Frieza. Let me just say he's number 3 on the list because, man, he's one of the top villains. I can't think of a villain that he's just so calculated, so cold. I remember watching Dragon Ball, and when he came down on planet Namek and just sicked Dodoria on those Nameks and Zarbon, he was just cruel, man. He didn't give a fuck about killing kids. He doesn't care about anything. And I just was like, man, I like that about him. And the simple fact that he made Goku go Super Saiyan, I mean, he was responsible for that. There would be no Super Saiyan if there was no Frieza. I mean, I think only Frieza, a character like Frieza, is capable of pushing somebody like Goku to that limit. I just do. Everything from his design, and I'm talking his final form, the sleekness of it, the armor, everything about it, and even his golden form, which I fucking just love his golden form and his evolution from that. Because for years I thought Frieza was done, but I love the fact that he got brought back, and he's actually he's had a lot of screen time. I just love him. I love him, and I don't think any villain in the world of Dragon Ball is going to be able to take that place. There are some dope villains, don't get it twisted, in Dragon Ball, but Frieza takes the cake on all of them. Moro is looking very, very, very close, in that caliber right now, if you know anything about the manga or whatever. And I'm hoping that they move forward with the manga, to the anime on this Prisoner Patrol. I think it's the Galactic Prisoner Patrol arc, or the Galactic Prisoner arc. Maybe I have it out of order, but the arc that's going on right now in Dragon Ball Super, man, I hope that they, don't skip that, and I hope they actually animate this whole manga series right now that's going on, because I think this villain is he's up there. You know what I mean? He's evil as fuck. But Frieza, hands down, that guy. He is that dude. He is that guy, man. Yeah, I actually have a Frieza tattoo on my chest, and underneath it says "throwed," which means just insane, basically. Not right in the head. He's just, he doesn't have all his marbles. He's very sadistic, and with the combination of just a lot of his abilities as well, and just cold, calculated demeanor that he had, and just his tainted past on everything from Goku's father and all of that, it was just hands down. I had to put him at number 3. Number 4, that green motherfucker you love to hate or love to love, Piccolo. Had to put Piccolo in there. Piccolo has always been in my top 5. Piccolo is another character that I just absolutely love, for the simple fact of he's a serious character. Once again, he falls under that same umbrella, and he is just so unique as far as he's a Namek. He's not of this world. He's basically an alien in a sense, kind of like Frieza, but just his own version. And he's just a unique Namek. There's a lot of Nameks out here. We know that there's a planet of Nameks and all of that, but he's like the creme de la creme of the Nameks. Is what he is. And his daddy, which is King Piccolo, I mean, fuck, just go back and look at Dragon Ball, and you'll know how much of a badass this guy was. I love some King Piccolo as well, but I didn't want to put him separate, because technically, I look at him as the same in a sense, even though they're technically not. But this Piccolo here, came a long way as well, even further than Vegeta as far as character wise. I mean, you can bet everybody calls Piccolo Gohan's real daddy, or his stepdaddy. You could kind of, you can argue that. His abilities are unique. The things he can do, he can regenerate his limbs. I mean, he can stretch his body. You know what I mean? A lot of his attacks, the one where he has, what he uses his mouth for, he's just an awesome character. And anybody who hates on Piccolo, I mean, there must be something wrong with you, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who hates him. But he's a very popular character in the Dragon Ball community. He's up there. I need to, look up like who's like the most popular characters in Dragon Ball. I haven't done that in a while. I can't even remember, who were the top ones at the time when I did look. That's interesting because I want to find out like what people out there are really, what characters they're gravitating to. That'd be cool. That'd be interesting. But he is definitely number 4 on my list. And like I said, guys, these top 5 characters that I'm naming, like you could almost swap any one of these characters out on depending on the day, what day you catch me on. These are the ones that just really hit home and I really care a lot about. So yeah, Piccolo is definitely number 4. He could be number 3. He could be number 2. Sometimes you catch me on a certain day, he could be number 1. It's just what it is. His relationship with Gohan, the development that they had, from when he was young and, growing up, and even, his abilities and strength. Piccolo was the one that basically was really the only one left to kind of power wise, to hang around with, Goku and Vegeta, when things were starting to just get very, very heated, very, very hot. And he was the one to taper off last. But, who knows, man? A lot of people are really wanting to see Piccolo reemerge and maybe learn something new, maybe take it to that next level. He's done so many things. I don't know what other level he can ascend to, but, Toriyama will probably find a way. And I hope he does find a way because it's getting crazy out here, in these Dragon Ball streets, moving into the super era where we're at now. And all these characters that we're getting introduced to and all this, man. I mean, Goku and Vegeta are going to need some fucking help. They're going to need some help, man. And, it's starting to look like the Z team might want to retire or whatever, at least stay out of these fights because we got to do something. That's all I'm saying. But yes, Piccolo, I'm praying for him. He's, the poster boy of my podcast. If you, look at the thumbnail of my podcast, he's the guy that you see when you read, Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball video game podcast. He's that dude meditating. So I just thought that was an awesome pick. And it just went perfect. And I thought it'd be just perfect for the podcast. And it is. Anyway, number 4 is Piccolo. Now let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is a throwback character. And this guy goes by the name of Mercenary Tao, aka Tao Pai Pai. Yes. This guy is so interesting to me. When I first saw him, when I watched Dragon Ball, who wears a pink gi with the words "kill you" on the back of it? Like, who else does that? Who else would fly using a pillar or a tree trunk? He can't physically fly like a lot of the characters or most characters in Dragon Ball Z now, but he can still technically fly, with his strength. He flies off of pillars and logs as that's his form of transportation. He will take it, he will throw it into the air, and he will catch it in the air, jump on it, and he will ride it until he reaches his destination. When I saw him kill a guy with his tongue, man, I mean, I just, that was it for me. That solidified him in my book of all time characters. And I'm not even talking about, when you think of favorite characters, when I think of them, I don't measure them by who's the strongest or, anything like that. I look at it like what character, what character appeases me the most? What character just do I gravitate to? And he's just one of those guys, man. He's one of the weakest characters out of the whole series. You know what I mean? But to me, he's one of the coolest. He's one of the coolest. Don't get it twisted. He's definitely a talented fighter. He's a trained assassin and all of that. But when you're talking about, the Z fighters and everybody else above that, then you're in different waters. You're in a whole nother plateau. And even the gap from the Z fighters to, Goku and Vegeta and those guys, the shit gets real fucking, it spreads even wider. So, yeah. So it's not about strength and power or anything like that. To me, it's just about, the coolness of that character. To me, because I'm sure there's characters out there that you guys may like or love that don't necessarily, they may not even fight. May not. There's so many characters in the world of Dragon Ball, and a lot of them don't even fight. They're just good. They're just awesome characters, period. Moving on to number 6, Android 16. Yes, Android 16. I do like the androids. I love the Android saga, and he was my favorite above all androids. Of everything from his design, and I always talk about design because when all is what you see when you first meet anybody, see anybody. What you see is going to, even though it shouldn't technically be this way, but that is the first thing that you see. Before anybody says anything to each other, okay, now do I like what I see? And then once you can answer that question, that's when you determine your next move. If I like how this girl looks, you know what I mean? That's going to, dictate if I want to say something to her or not. If you don't, you're just going to move on past her, just keep walking. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is when I'm watching characters. I see them first and I say, okay, what is this character about now? Okay, I like the look. I like, what I'm looking at, but what's next? So you got my attention now. And, he was programmed to kill Goku. I mean, I thought that was awesome. He was just, and what I also found that was really cool was the fact that, everybody thought that 16 was the weakest android out of all of them this whole time. I thought, 17 and 18 were like, the best ones. And he was just like, put together, not as good as the other two. And, he had one specific purpose, but he ended up like really, changing my mind on that. He ended up being stronger than 17 and stronger than 18. And he ended up, having a bigger purpose than what, everybody initially thought. And that's what sold me on him. But yeah, Android 16 is not much to say about him. He's an android. He doesn't have much of a personality, but he does know where to draw the line, I guess, if you will, on what good and evil is and in him loving nature or whatnot. And I just would really like for them to do something with him moving forward. Something with, you got Android 18 and you got Android 17, which is cool, but where's 16 at? I think 16 could fit somewhere, in this Dragon Ball Super arc somewhere, down the line or something. I like to see that. If not, hey, it is what it is, but he's my favorite android, and that's Android 16. That is my number 6. Number 7. Ooh-wee. Number 7 is a character that just caught me off guard completely. He really did. And he's very simple. He's a very simple character. A lot of people hate this man. A lot of people hate this guy. I don't even know if he's a man, but a lot of people hate him. Okay. And he goes by the name of Jiren the Gray. Yes, Jiren. I just love the awesomeness of this character. And, it's always the simple, like, looking characters. Like, the minute I saw him when, Dragon Ball Super, the credits would roll and you would watch the intro, I always wondered who this motherfucker was. Like, who is this guy fighting Goku? He's got to be one of the top dogs because he's just going all out with him. But then when you get to watch him, you get to see how powerful this motherfucker actually really is. It's just crazy. Yeah, man, he's just a powerhouse. He's just a simplistic, looking, just some kind of alien guy who's just buff as fuck, who skipped leg day, and he's just packing so much power. I just love this guy. I love Jiren. And I can't really explain why I love him so much. I can't. I mean, I just love the way he looks, and I love that he's just so fucking just strong, and it to the point to where I wonder how far will, Toriyama take this? How far will Toriyama take this character? You know what I mean? Will we see him again? Will we see him in a future arc? Will we see him, go up against Moro? Will we see him, join, Goku again, with the threats out there in the future? Because I think if we're all, wise enough, we're probably going to see some other, enemies from different universes. I mean, they set it up that way. So the way it ended, with him and Goku it ended good. It ended to where, they could actually become friends and they could actually, work on the same page. I believe that. I truly believe that. And Jiren is my number 7. Moving on to number 8. Number 8 for me, guys, is one of the coolest characters I thought. And I always keep saying they're so cool and all this and all this. Just forgive me. I can't find another word, but I was really looking. The least favorite saga, in my opinion, for me, a lot of you guys might kill me for this, but it was the Majin Buu saga. That was my least favorite saga, my least favorite arc. And I was trying so hard, watching that arc to find a character that I really, really enjoyed in that arc. A lot of people are going to say Majin Vegeta. I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Majin Vegeta, though. That's not my favorite version by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, he looks cool or whatever, but he's just not my favorite. I love the Saiyan armor that he presently has. That's just his trademark thing. And I think they realize that now because that's pretty much what he has on, and that's pretty much what they go to, kind of like Goku's gi or Piccolo's, turban or whatever, stuff like that. Dabura is my number 8 character. Dabura, the Demon King. He's just an awesome character, man. I really, really enjoy him in that arc. I really do. His palette of moves, his uniqueness, his spit that can turn you to stone. He just, I don't know. He's just an awesome character to me. I really enjoy his character a lot, and just the way his abilities look, and his, of course, the way he's just a evil, kind of like I don't even know. He just got this presence about him. The voice, the deepness of his voice, who was playing him in the show, everything about him, man. Dabura was shit. I just really like this dude, and I really hope that see more of him, because apparently he was the brother of the main antagonist in the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games. Supposedly, if I'm not mistaken. It's been so long since I played Xenoverse 1 and 2. I have them both, but it's been so long since I played them. But I think I remember them saying something about he's the brother of the antagonist in that. And, I would like to see them do something with him, like in the future. In the future, at some point. But that probably won't happen. But maybe it will. If not in the series, maybe in a game down the line or something, like kind of like how they did, with the Dragon Ball Fighters thing, with the new android or whatnot. Who knows? But yeah, man, Dabura is dope. You can't hate Dabura, man. As far as villains are concerned, one of the coolest, in my opinion. Number 9, Master fucking Roshi. Yes, Master Roshi is the OG of Dragon Ball. And you have to put him on this list. I had to put him on this list, man. He's a dirty old man, and he loves, the ass and titties. And you can't blame him for that. I mean, and he's some of the best moments in Dragon Ball were some of the scenes that he had, in some of these moments with Bulma and some of these other female characters, man. You just got to love Master Roshi, man. You got to. He loves his dirty magazines, and he's the guy who created the Kamehameha, And if there was no Master Roshi, there'd be no Kamehameha. I just don't know what else to say with that. I was one of those guys that were, bitching and moaning about putting him in Dragon Ball Fighters because I truly believe that he would fit so good in that game. I mean, his transformation from, when he buffs up, really big, I just think they could do so much with that character. And I just don't understand why they didn't put him in the game. I really feel that Master Roshi deserves to be in that game. You put Yamcha in that game, you need to put Master Roshi in this game. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry, Yamcha fans. I don't mean it, no disrespect, but you got to put him in there. Come on, you got to. I still have high hopes. I still have my fingers crossed. Season 3, let's go. Let's get Roshi in here. That's just me. Maybe they will. And I still believe that they will one day. I think we're not done with fighters, and we got a long way to go as far as characters and everything like that. So I think he still has a place in that game. But I had to put him on my list. For anything else, just the fact that he's the OG and he's an innovator of, he's an innovator, man, in this world, in this universe. You got to have Master Roshi on here, man. Last but not least, my number 10 pick is a character who isn't a very major character by any stretch of the imagination. He has not been around. He's a movie character. Let's just keep it real with each other. And I just thought he was a dope ass character, and you could see the resemblance on certain other character out there in the Nintendo world. But he goes by the name of Tapion, however you want to pronounce it. He's made his appearance in the the movie 13 in the Dragon Ball Z movie. I think the movie was called Wrath of the Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was the 13th movie. I have all the movies. Haven't seen them in so many years. I haven't seen them in so long, but that was one of my favorite movies. And reason being because he was one of my favorite characters. And I don't know, he's just a strong, silent type, a serious character. Again, pretty much all my favorite characters, with the exception of Master Roshi. Everybody else is serious as fuck. But he was another serious character. Didn't say a lot, man. Had that fucking dope ass sword. He, had this fucking, his flute. I think that had his Orcana. I don't know how to pronounce that shit. But it was just so many variations to Link. When I saw that, I was just like, yo, I see what they're doing. They're making a badass Link type character and putting him in the world of Dragon Ball. I wish they do more with this guy. I wish that he came back. I wish that, they would do something new. There's so many characters that we were introduced to and we would really love to see again. A lot of characters. One character that everybody seems to always bring up when they talk about this type of thing is, and I had it at the tip of my fucking tongue and then I forget it already. God damn it. If I think of it before the show is finished, I'll bring it up. But there's so many characters though that people, like or love that don't get or didn't get a lot of screen time and they want to see come back. And a lot of them have, a good argument to, they would be welcomed with open arms. And you could definitely easily write something for a lot of these guys, to come back to. It is what it is. Number 10 though is Tapion, and I love this character so much. He's just an awesome character. And sometimes, when they put a character in a movie like that, it's kind of like, well, they were meant to be given to us for a short period of time and leave us wanting more, which is why he's, I think, a lot of people's favorites too. I think I'm not the only one who feels this way. He's up there though. But number 10, he made the list, guys. He made the list. Now I definitely have, a couple of honorable mentions in here. Some characters that I just, really, really liked for whatever reason. And here they go. I'm just going to give them to you. Trunks. Yes. I know a lot of you guys are like, what? He wasn't in your fucking top 10? Because there's a lot of Trunk fans out there too. Yeah, Trunks. I mean, he's the son of Vegeta. I mean, that makes him awesome alone, all by itself. I think that's enough to merit that. But also, I think that a lot of his abilities, especially when you first met him, when, he came down to Frieza and he dusted off Frieza's dad and Frieza just like it was nothing. And before anybody knew who he really was, I thought that was awesome. And really when he came back in the Goku Black arc, that was also a nice version of his. You know what I mean? That was when I saw Dragon Ball going kind of dark a little bit. It's getting a little bit on the dark side. I was like, we're getting a little dark here. What's going on? So I don't know, man. He's an honorable mention because I do like Trunks. Don't get it twisted. I just didn't see him on my top 10 list. He didn't make the top 10. He's an honorable mention for sure. Another one, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but man, it's a GT character. It's Baby Vegeta. Okay. I just thought he looked cool. I don't know anything too much about Baby Vegeta. I've seen a couple fights, whatever. I just thought the concept of him and his character was cool. Not everything. I didn't think everything was trash in GT. I just thought that GT as a whole was just not what that was. It just wasn't. And it wasn't enough to hold it together and make it a real show in my eyes. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to hate on anybody who feels differently. That's just how I feel about it. And, I had to tell you guys that. I had to keep it real. Bottom line. And my last honorable mention is a character who used to be a rival of Vegeta's early on back in the day. And was actually stronger than Vegeta at one point in time, at one point. And his name is Kui. Some people call him Kui, some people call him Kui, and others call him Kiwi, which is his name in how you pronounce it in the manga. But yes, he was a rival. He was one of the first rivals Vegeta had, dating back before they came to Earth and all of that. Back probably in the times of when Goku and Piccolo were fighting, Raditz, something like that, or even before that. But yeah, this guy was a rival of Vegeta's, and he's an alien of some sort. Don't know, all I know is he's alien, but he was tough. He was actually like a leader he had his own little soldiers under him and all of that. And him and Vegeta would always get into it over shit. Of course, Vegeta was the favorite, Frieza's favorite, kind of like the golden child, if you will. Got special privileges and all of that. And Kui didn't take too kindly to that. And, they had it out on Planet Namek, and it didn't go too good for Kui. But I just got to say that I don't know why I like him so much. I just do. Just certain characters that I just, for whatever reason, I just really liked him. And, somebody to beef with Vegeta, at a time when, things weren't so complicated. And that's it. That's a wrap for the top 10. For me, I hope you guys liked the list. I hope it's worthy. I would love, and I mean this, I would fucking love to hear what you guys have to say about this list here. I would like to know your top 10. Shit, fuck it. Give me your top 5. Dead or alive. Give me your top 5, dead or alive. Hit me on Twitter. Message me out there, or even on Instagram. Yeah, man, I would love to see how you guys feel about some of these Dragon Ball characters, man. I'm sure I'm going to hear a bunch of crazy different ones, man. Like, I know I am. I just know it. The ones that I would never think to even fathom. You know what I mean? You might hear Yajirobe. You might hear, who knows? I know there's a lot of Majin Buu fans out here. Another honorable mention real quick is, let me just throw this one out here, is Evil Buu. I really liked Evil Buu's design. And he didn't say much at all. He couldn't even fucking talk. But his design, that dark version of him, I just thought he was very awesome. He looked kind of like Majin Buu was on crack. But he just looked, I don't know, I just liked that look he had. Just a dark version of Majin Buu. Thought it was cool. But yeah, man, that's going to do it for my top 10. Yeah, that's going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Man, you guys need to stay tuned for next week's podcast because, like I said before, I'm going to be covering Gamescom and everything, from new video game reveals to release dates of games that we already know are coming but don't know when. All of the drama surrounding all of that. I can't fucking wait to jump into that with you guys. Please check me out next week. It's going to be a doozy. All the newcomers, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for listening. Can't wait to hear from you guys online. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'm going to get my ass up out of here. It's been a long fucking night. With that being said, guys, this is Studio MacGyver, and you have been listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. See you next time.
Dragon Ball is all I do, all I wanna see when I'm at home. I watch some Dragon Ball. Will you watch some Dragon Ball with me tonight? If you don't like Dragon Ball, you can kick rocks, cause I don't need you in my life, girl. If you don't like Dragon Ball, no. I love Dragon Ball so much, it makes me feel so good inside. I'ma hit this freestyle tonight on that Dragon Ball. To all of my Dragon Ball fans, I love you so much. We all have that thing in common. So when we watch Dragon Ball, we all love some Dragon Ball.